used to have a sweet shop.
Wait, you ran a sweet shop in prison?
Come on, once a hustler, you're always going to be
how did you hustle?
Entrepreneur, right? Oh, banana pudding. I made the banana pudding taste exactly the way I made it at home. One of the cups was $2.50, and the other cup was $3.50. These girls would come by and just grab like 2 or 3. I used to have commissary out of the wazoo.
On today's episode, we have Lonett Williams from BET's American Gangster Trap Queen series to share her story of building a real estate empire, turning it into a fraud after the 2008 market crash, and spending 10 years in federal prison. Listen up, everyone. Remember to grab your official locked-in gear just in time for the holiday season. I hope you all sit back, relax, and get ready to lock in with Lonett Williams. Lonett Williams, welcome to Locked In.
Thank you, Ian. It's so great to be here.
Yeah, it's been a great conversation already. We haven't even started.
I know.
High energy, you're exciting, you're laughing, you've been smiling the whole time.
I know.
You've taken some shots at me. You called me shy.
No.
See, I'm warming up to you. Don't worry.
Yeah, you got that energy. You got that great energy. But shy's not bad necessarily.
People I'm like you can't figure me out type of person. You don't know. It's like a mysterious, you know.
Yeah, I got you though.
Yeah, it works, but you figured me out. You called me out on my bullshit.
No.
Welcome to the show, though. You have a nice ride in?
Thank you. Yes, it was very long. I thought I would not be back in this town, but here we are.
Yeah, and this town has a lot of history for you, which we're going to get into.
Yeah.
But let's start at the beginning of the story. Where are you from? What's early childhood like for you?
Okay, so I always say I'm from Queens, but I'm actually from the Bronx. And I represent Queens because we moved there. Yeah, I know it, right? LL Cool J. I really do that sometimes, but I represent Queens. But anyway, so I do represent Queens because I got there when I was about 9, I think. And I've been there, I grew up there. I became a woman there. I went through those formative years there. So, yeah.
What about your parents? Were they together? Did you have siblings?
I had a great. I had a really good childhood. I had both my parents. I have an older brother, and look, yeah, the story stops there. Right?
That's it. So pretty basic. No like childhood trauma, nothing like that.
Well, when you're young and you're a child in your parents' home, you don't realize that what you're going through may be trauma, But as you grow, you realize, wow, it's like most of our childhoods are wrapped in generational trauma. It's only when you get older that you look back and you say, wow, that wasn't. So that didn't need to happen that way. And it probably would have been best handled another way. But, you work with what you have. And I had like my childhood from the outside seemed like it was the greatest American dream upbringing ever. Let my brother tell the story. His story totally is way different than mine. We're just 4.5 years apart. I don't knock his story, but from my standpoint, I had a great childhood. I couldn't have wanted anything more. But again, looking back, there's some things that I realized that selective, what do they call it? Selective memory.
Yeah.
Works for me.
That's a great statement you made, though, that each person has their own memory of a situation, and that plays a big part into our stories, people that were formerly incarcerated, because there's 2 sides to every story.
Yes.
You have the government side, you have our side. What normally happens is it's just the government side that gets out in the world. Mm-hmm. You create a platform like this, and it gives the opposite end of the spectrum.
Yeah.
That's just like a huge theme in the show.
Yeah, it is. I know I saw a couple of your shows, and shows like these are so important. They're so important. People do watch, They do want to know. They want to know what it was like inside. They want to know what you experienced. They want to know about you as a person. These shows like these are really good to give a background on the person that went to prison. Because to look at you, you would never think. I know to look at me, you'd never think who's walking around smiling like this all the time.
Yeah.
But to God be the glory. But yeah.
But just the way you go about things just shows that you didn't let what happened to you define you. We come out here, we're still happy, we're having fun. You know, we all have our sad days. Even people that haven't been to prison have sad days.
Yeah.
But that doesn't define us, you know, that we keep moving forward.
Not at all. It's like if you let it define you, or if you let it consume you for a moment, you can really sink into a deep space of depression. And sometimes, you know, since then, since coming home, sometimes I wake up in the morning like, no. That's not no. You know, just I literally shake it off. We're not going to do any anxiety. We're not going to allow negative thoughts. We're going to be positive. And I know a lot of people, and this is kind of probably news to a lot of people, because when you see someone walking around and they're always seeming, you know, they seem to be in good spirits all the time. It's like, no, we do have negative spaces, you know, we enter into. And the only way to get out of it for me is self-talk. I literally, and I say it out loud sometimes, stop, nope, we're not doing that.
You got to check yourself sometimes. You only got you at the end of the day, no matter what. And when you get to a place like prison, that's when you really only have you.
That's right. And you know what's so funny and so interesting that you say that, because the people in there, a lot of people created these families while they were away. And I found it interesting how, you know, they were able to create a family. I always felt like my family's home.
Yeah, now on an everyday basis, I talk to more people that I was in prison with than I did to people that I was outside of prison with. I'm going to my friend's wedding next week, who was a guy I met in prison. And you form those relationships, and people have those attachments because you spend so much time with them.
Yeah.
You know, what do they say? It takes X amount of days and hours to get to know someone and consider them a friend.
Yeah.
You're literally living with individuals in prison where you're forced to be in that setting. So it's a whole different topic.
Talk about that. Forced to be, you wake up and you see somebody in your face, you go brush your teeth and it's the same person.
Because everyone has their routine.
Yeah.
You pick any time of the day and you follow someone's routine in prison, you kind of see, because you're forced to see those routines. How would someone describe you growing up? Like if we had one of your high school friends here, what would they say about you?
That's interesting. I like that question.
Thank you. I like to ask good questions.
Yeah. I don't know if I can answer how somebody else perceives me, but I can just, I don't know. I think that's a great question, Ian. I'm almost stuck. I don't know how people would perceive me. I think people would have perceived me as shy. Back in junior high school and high school, I would say I was shy. Wasn't the extroverted side of me wasn't in place yet. I couldn't decide where that belonged. But I think people for the most part would say I was shy and quiet.
You've been calling me shy all morning, and now here you were. We find out that
Takes
you were shy.
Takes one to know one.
Okay. I'll take that. Do you end up graduating high school?
Yeah.
Where did you go to college?
Right after high school, I went to Nassau Community. I didn't want to go to college, though. I didn't want to go. I went because I knew my dad was going to buy me a car. So my brother had gotten his car when he graduated high school, right? So I knew I was getting one, so you have to go to college in order to get the car. So I went. I didn't stay, though. But later, I went to Cornell.
Okay. So you went to college just to get the car?
Yeah.
And then as soon as you got the car, you left college? So when you left college that first time, what did you do? Did you work? Did you have any like career path, ambition, anything like that?
No, I actually, I think, I left college because I was pregnant.
With your firstborn?
Yeah, with my first.
And were you married to that man, or you guys were just dating?
No, we were just dating. But we had a good, at 19, what is your relationship? It was good. It was solid. We were in love, Ian. We were in love. And, so, I got pregnant. And from the moment I was pregnant, I knew I was keeping my child. And before that, I didn't even think about having any kids at all. Like, I wasn't one that didn't want any. But that's just not what we thought about where I grew up. We just didn't think about having kids, and a lot of young women did, but that wasn't what we thought of in my house. That wasn't like part of the plan.
Do you ever think about how life could have been different if you didn't have a kid at that early age?
I mean, I've thought about it maybe once or twice, but nothing solid. I didn't. Yeah, I don't have any regrets. I don't have any regrets. I think, looking back at this point in my life, those were some of the best times of my life, raising my sons. And I did it alone. So, but they were the best, most rewarding.
And how are you supporting yourself financially?
Oh, I had a job.
Oh, you did? So
yeah, I worked at American Express. I mean, my parents worked. I worked.
So you had a very easygoing life for the most part. Like you got the car, you went to college, you had the opportunities handed to you. Everything was fine. So how on earth do you land yourself in federal prison? Because it's not like you had drug use growing up or you were in poverty or anything like that. You had like the advantages life had to offer you.
Yeah. And you know what? We can all end up in a federal prison at some point. That's one thing I've learned. But I didn't. What landed me in federal prison is not a life of crime. It was a decision I had to make. I became an entrepreneur. I was actually that since I was 11 years old with my Sunshine Girls Club.
Wait, what's Sunshine Girls Club?
So I created this club for myself and the girls on the block, and we would do dances, and we charged the parents to come to the shows, and they've had to pay 25 cents to come to the shows. And I know you were big on lemonade stands when you were young.
Candy.
So we sold lemonade and cookies and cakes and stuff that our parents baked, and we sold them. And I actually chose a treasurer. What else? I was the president and CEO, of course. And there was a treasurer and a secretary. And who knew that those are the three main elements needed to form a business?
You know what's interesting is that the drug addicts that I interview, something that's a reoccurring theme is that their parents were users, and then that trickles down. And something I've realized with people that go to prison for like fraud, for example, a reoccurring theme is that they had some sense of entrepreneurship as a young adult. They were doing something. They had the skills or the ability or that mindset. Yeah. Because you need that to even commit a fraud anyways.
Yeah. And you know what I realized also? Most of the people that did commit fraud, they didn't start out in fraud. Fraud wasn't part of the plan. It certainly wasn't part of my plan. I mean, I made my son the CEO of my company, and I made my youngest one. He was an officer of the company as well. So, yeah, fraud was not an option. It was not even in play, nothing I ever thought about. But I think most of us that end up committing fraud, we are entrepreneurs for the most part, and we find ourselves in these situations where we have to make decisions. Are you going to sink or are you going to swim? And I think maybe better planning. But things you're always going to find as an entrepreneur, you're always going to find yourself in a space. You're going to find yourself in a space where you have to make some hard choices. Did I need to make those choices? Did I have to make those choices? No, looking back, of course I didn't. But it seemed like that was the viable option at the time.
Yeah. I mean, most individuals like myself, the fraud happened when you're pressed up against a wall, and in a lot of cases it's not even intentional. The act itself is intentional, but not the mindset behind it. And I think that's what the court system is not looking at.
It used to be intent, right? Intent is what used to put you away, but that has nothing to do with it anymore. It's just the act. The act is fraud, therefore you. Do you know what the judge said? You should have. You had cause to know, or you should have known. Okay.
So what business did you get into that you started?
I had at this point in time.
At that point in time, before the fraud happens, describe like what the setting is, what your life's like, and your son's involvement. You said they were the CEO, right?
Yeah, but that was only by name.
Okay.
I made them CEO because I could. I just wanted, as a single mom, I definitely wanted to build a lifestyle and a life for them that sat outside of that box. So, but life for me before the big storm happened was fabulous. Definitely I had the big house on the hill in California. I had cars, I had properties everywhere, all over the country, and a lot of responsibilities. And I was built this empire alone, and so that being said, I didn't have anybody to report to, nobody to hold me accountable, and vice versa. So life was good. A lot of stress. It's so crazy you don't realize how much stress is involved in being successful until it's all gone.
Absolutely. So was this empire built legally?
Yes.
Legitimately? Mm-hmm. And for those that don't know who you are, it was a real estate empire.
Yes.
What was like day-to-day operations? How did you accrue this empire?
Day-to-day operations were stress from the morning to the night. One real estate deal will give you stress, right? So imagine 17 deals in escrow at one time. It's all over the place. But sometimes I would actually, sometimes you'll make calls and it's like, okay, listen, today is an off day. Because as an entrepreneur, we don't take days off. We work, right? Yeah. And so when nobody's picking up at the escrow office and you've got all of this business going on all over the country, it's like, okay, you know what? Why don't you just go to the movies? And that's what I would do sometimes.
You just go to the movies?
Drop it and go to the movies.
By yourself?
Mm-hmm.
I went to the movies for the first time by myself a couple of years ago when I was working in Long Island for Whole Foods. Listen, that was like an interesting experience because I hated going alone to places.
Really?
Yeah, and I liked it. I saw the new Spider-Man movie because I didn't know anyone in Long Island, so I went. And then recently when I was in Alaska, I ate alone. And it's a very like wholesome like experience just sitting there.
Yeah.
And I think that broke because like you said, I'm shy.
Yeah.
I've always been shy. Like when I walk into a place, like I have to be on my phone. Like or I don't want people to recognize me or anything like this. Now, like I don't give a shit. Like I just walk in, I just do whatever. I say hello. I'm being more social.
Yeah.
Shooting my shot into girls' DMs. I'm doing things like that. But I didn't have that before. Like this is all. I think as this podcast has progressed, I've gained that.
Yeah.
Which is it's interesting how like those things change it. I'm a very like mind type of person. Like I love the mentality and how someone thinks. That's why I ask questions about like your thoughts, your feelings, who you are as a person, because that's how the audience gets to understand you too.
Yeah, that's great. I love that. And it does. Podcasting definitely opens you up.
Absolutely, you have to. Because if I sat here shy, this wouldn't work. You'd be like, I came to Connecticut for this. What were you flipping houses? Is that what the empire was built on? Or what exactly were you guys doing?
Well, okay, so I started in real estate as a loan officer, actually. So being a loan officer is a very powerful position, FYI. For those watching and listening do not know. That's a very powerful position, especially if you're a loan officer for your own deals. So your own transactions. So starting out as a loan officer, I realized I found out a lot. I processed my own loans, and as I moved into the real estate side of it as an agent, selling the happy homemaker her home. Oh, no, I can't do that. I can't do it. You know what happens when you for me, mainstream real estate sales, nobody goes home happy. At the closing table, I'm excited to get my commission, right? But everybody's like, they're happy at the moment, but then they call you 2 days later and say, oh, there was a chip in the floor. Can we get some of that? It's like, no, the deal is closed. But what happened is they went home with a deal that with a house they probably couldn't afford. Somebody probably told them, oh, you grow into your house. No, you buy what you can buy, and then you sell it or you rent it out, and then you buy into something else, But usually people, they're saddled with these mortgages, and in debt over over their head. And so nobody's happy. So the type of real estate deals that I did was investment real estate. And so we'll call them incentive built in, right? Which were really just seller concessions. But the people can make anything look like it's not legal, especially when they need it to not look legal. They can make it appear to be whatever they want it to be. But largely they were concessions built into the deal. So by the time my real estate transactions closed, everybody's happy. Everybody went home with money. And so it was a good day. It was a good day.
What year was this?
This was all leading up to and including, no, it didn't include 2008. Did it? Yeah, right around there.
So everything was great up until about then.
Yeah.
So what happens? Was it the market crash that changed your life, or was it other circumstances?
Oh, it was the market.
Really? So you're not the first person that's been in this type of industry that it affected, that crash turned into fraud. Yeah, that was a very serious time. I mean, during that time, everything was great for a while. And, I had clients that were refinancing their homes every 6 months. It's like, and it got to a point, and that wasn't my suggestion, but they were refinancing their homes like every 6 months. And it got to the point where a few of my clients were about to refi. I said, you know what? It's about to shut down. You might want to, if this is what you're doing, you might want to go ahead and refinance and cash it all out, because this won't be happening again. Because I felt it coming. Not even that I felt it coming, I saw it coming. I saw the crash happening. Like, I just knew it was coming. Things started to slow down. And, the industry started changing. And so you could really, when you're in it that way, when you're in the thick of it, you can really see the little things, the appraised values and how they were coming back. How many closings were happening without closing costs included, because you couldn't get the house low enough to accommodate the closing cost. So this was easy 6 months ago. Now all of a sudden it's not. So it was a lot. How much were you making before the crash, at like the peak of your business?
I made some six digits a month.
A month, 6 digits a month. And this was all legal. Everything was legit.
Yeah.
So the crash happens. What was the first time that it goes into the gray area?
When the 6 figures became 5.
So was it for you a mental thing where you needed to figure out how to make more money to live up to your lifestyle?
Well, no, it was more like, that's when you asked me when I saw it coming, when I noticed that things were changing. Mm-hmm. And that's when I noticed. You always notice your pockets first. And that's when I noticed things were changing. So no, it wasn't right away that any of that needed to happen. I did meet somebody that had these connections at the bank. I don't even want to say the bank out loud, but somebody had these connections and they introduced me, and it was right around the time when things were changing. And so as things were changing, I'm calculating, I'm looking around. It's like, okay, all right. I'm, figuring maybe I will flip. Maybe I will flip and sell, or, maybe I better start, stacking and doing whatever. But to have such airtight connections on the inside, and to have your back against the wall, it got to that point where my back was against the wall, and nothing can go wrong. What can go wrong? If anybody's going down, she's going down, right? Mm. Not me. So, but yeah, it didn't work that way. It didn't work that way.
Looking back on it now, was there any other alternatives that you could have taken besides the road that you're about to travel down?
Yeah. I could have just lost everything without trying.
So there was no way to try and do it legitimately?
What was I going to do? Go into a bank and say, here's you make all these millions, and go to a bank and say, yeah, I need I need a float, I need something, like I need a loan. They're not going to give. They weren't going to.
Even with all the real estate you owned?
Yep.
Is that just because of the timing, or?
It was the timing. It seemed, I think I can go ahead and just say it just seemed like an easy way to go ahead and make it happen. Yeah.
You chose the fast route.
I chose the fast route. I did. And it just felt like any other way was going to take too long and that window would close on me. And so, yeah, out of desperation, I grabbed.
So what exactly did you do? What does it lead into?
What do you mean?
Like, what did you do that was considered fraud? That would start from a legitimate operation to an illegitimate operation.
Falsified documents.
What kind of documents are we talking about?
Oh, come on, Ian.
No one knows it. The listeners want to know.
Yeah. Well, I have this episode, right, on BET.
Yeah, this is a different group of people that want to hear from you,
Yeah.
These are the people not watching BET.
That's right.
I know what you did, but it's the listeners that want to hear,
Ask the question again.
What type of loan documents did you forge?
Okay, it was, it started with the 1003.
What's a 1003?
1003 is a loan application, mortgage loan application that you fill out when you want to buy a house and you want to go into contract and you want a loan from the bank. So that's the big one. And it started with the 1003. And actually, it started with stated income. That's the fave back in the days. Over 700 FICO, you can state anything. You can say you make $1 million somewhere and, it's going to go through because you have the FICO to support it. What happened is that you needed to have, you didn't need any documentation to support it at that time. The only falsification was that on the application. And so as things are dropping out of escrow, they decided that now you have to supply documentation. Otherwise, all of your deals were going to fall out of escrow.
So you had to forge them. How would you forge them? Is it just like taking a photocopy and using some whiteout, or?
Yeah, sometimes it was. Sometimes it was as simple as that. A little whiteout here, a little whiteout there.
That wouldn't work now, would it?
I don't know. I have no idea. I don't even want to know, to be honest with you. I definitely will not travel that road ever again in life. There is nothing. I mean, so crazy. It's like, that was the one time I made a left turn and like everything.
So that was it?
Yeah.
You just did this once or twice?
When I did it, I did it a few times because I had a lot of deals in escrow that I did not want to fall out. So yeah, I did it a few times. But when I say that one time I took a left turn in life, like that's the first time I entered a crime zone, and needless to say, I didn't think that, I know it sounds crazy, right? It says, we will prosecute right on the application, right? But you're not going to prosecute me.
But when you were forging these documents, who's losing on that deal? Like, is anyone really out of pocket? Because if you have real estate to back it, is the bank, even though you lied, is the bank losing money or no? Hypothetically. They're not. But it's because you lied, someone found out you lied, and then they brought that up is why you eventually get charged.
Yeah, and there's insurance all over the place.
So there is insurance to back everything up.
Everything.
Well, what's interesting, too, is about the criminal justice system is a bank could lose money, they're insured, and the person that caused them the loss is still going to jail.
Not only are they going to jail, but they're paying restitution.
Yeah, that is a big issue with the fact of the restitution. A lot of these people get their money back through insurance, and then they're still paying. I don't know where that money goes, how that works.
And they're not even people that get their money back. They're entities.
Yeah.
They're entities that get their money back. The FDIC is big insurance, right?
It's way different.
Title insurance, that's insurance. I guess I read somewhere that the laws were not made for people that don't commit crimes. Does that make sense? One of those ways.
How much time passed between when you first did this, forged a document, and when you ultimately found out whoever was investigating you?
I think the time was 5 years.
5 years went by.
Yeah.
Were you actively forging documents through the full 5 years?
No.
So you just did it a few years back, and then all of a sudden it catches up to you?
Yeah.
So how do you get wind that they're investigating you?
Someone told me. Yeah, somebody that they were actually, this woman that I was actually doing business with, she managed to tell me that, watch the messenger, right? So she managed to tell me that that I was being investigated. They took pictures of us when we were in Miami, and like, okay, well, I'm not doing anything. Everything that whatever I did is done. It's gone. Yeah, and so she told me.
And were you able to rebuild your business from those forged documents? Like, is business back to normal at this point?
No. Business is not back to normal. I mean, that was years ago. I had to pay the price for that.
So business wasn't back to normal even with in the later years before the investigation even started?
No, I shut down my business in 2009, I believe.
Oh, so you had to shut it down even with...
I didn't have to. I just did. It had its run, and I was enjoying spending my money. And the stress in life was kind of lessening, and I was enjoying kind of like a little stress-free life.
That didn't last long.
No, it didn't.
So what year did they come knocking?
2000. They came in 2010 or 11. I believe it was 11.
And did they raid the house? What happened?
No, they did. It was worse than that.
It gets worse than raiding the house?
Yeah, when they arrest your child.
They arrested your child?
Mm-hmm.
Your son?
Mm-hmm.
How old was your son at the time?
What's going on? Like, am I going to go hang out with my oldest one in New York, or am I going to go hang out with my youngest one in California at home? And he didn't answer the phone, my oldest, and he always answers the phone. Like, that was a phone that I paid for specifically. So because when he moved away, he moved from home at 18. So so that phone never dies, right? We had a little pact that we made, and so I called my youngest one, who was back home in California, and I'm Bubbles, and I'm just like, "What's going on?" So and he said, "Ma, did you call? Did you call him? Did you call Sean?" And I said, "Yeah, but his phone went to voicemail. I'll try him back in a few minutes. I'm still excited. So what's going on?" So I'm trying to figure out if I'm going to hang out in New York with Shawnee for a minute, or am I going to come home? And he said, "Okay, Ma, no. Okay, so you don't know." I said, "No, what?" Oh, that's when I hit the ground in the airport.
And he told you that your son got arrested by who? The FBI? Or?
It didn't even matter. That my son got arrested was enough for me. Like I was fortunate enough that I didn't have to deal with any of that kind of stuff raising my sons, and so for him to just say those words, like, that was pure devastation. And then I was already on the ground in the airport, and then I said, "No, what happened? What happened?" And then he told me what it was. He said it was for mortgage fraud, and yeah, that was like a cannon, if you can even imagine. Went straight through me. And I remember this lady tapping me, because I was dressed nice. It's like I wasn't hanging out on the floor in the airport. Clearly something happened, and she tapped me. I said, I'm okay. And yeah, so that was the most devastating time of my life. There was only one other time where I was devastated like that, and that's when school dropped my youngest one off in a housing development that was not where I lived. But yeah.
So did you know that it was related to you once he told you mortgage fraud?
Yeah.
So you knew that, oh shit, this finally caught up to me. Mm-hmm. So what happens next after this?
Well, immediately from the airport, I called my daughter-in-law and I just drove straight to. I rented a car. I left my bags in the airport, and I just went straight to the car rental, rented a car, and went to New York. And she said he wasn't home yet, so he's like literally still, in custody. But she said they're releasing him, and so she was going to pick him up. So she went and picked him up, and by the time she picked him up, I got to her mom's house, and that's where we all met.
And then what's like that first conversation like?
There was no conversation. It was just, I was bawling, and just I'm sorry. And then later that night, we all went back to my son's house. And then we just, we were talking and just, trying to find out. I wanted to know what happened, what did they say, and to try to start getting to the bottom of why they would arrest my son when they know that he has nothing to do with anything. He lived in New York City. This was, had nothing to do with anything. They knew it was my business.
What was he doing for work at that time?
He was living in New York, and him and his wife, they had this vintage clothing business. And
so he wasn't associated to you in any way, besides that document saying that he's the CEO?
Well, the CEO, and that I bought him a house in Florida.
Okay. So.
I did buy him a house in Florida, and I did buy it stated income.
Okay.
Yeah.
So when do you go and talk to the police?
I don't think that came up. I wouldn't talk to my attorney. Yeah, they didn't call me. They didn't have anything on me.
They didn't have anything on you. They just, because his name. Oh wow.
Yeah, that was even more devastating. They never had anything on me. I gave them everything they needed, though.
So that way they dropped the charges on him, and
you would think that was the point.
And they didn't. Mm-mm. So he got jail time too.
Mm-hmm.
How much jail time did your son get?
18 months.
In a camp or a low, or they gave him 18 months even though he had nothing to do with it?
Yeah. Yep. And I didn't even realize at the time, but at the time they told me that he was facing more than that. Yeah, he was facing more than that. And so after being away, we look at time differently, right? But at the time, I'm just a mother, that built this lifestyle for my children, and we're not thinking about any kind of prison or anything like that. And so I'm clearly just like no jail time. He should not have any, But in retrospect, after going through my time away, that's when you look back and you're like, wow, that was kind of, either they should have done nothing or he could have gotten a lot. So, yeah.
How much time did they end up giving you?
10 years.
And you got a plea deal, or do you go to trial?
Plea
deal.
Yeah, I wasn't going to trial. They had my baby.
Yeah.
Yeah, there was no trial for me. There was no fighting it. I didn't even do the, what did they call it? The 2255, if I remember correctly. Yeah, I didn't even do that until they had gave him his sentence. And that was maybe a week before the deadline. So I had a whole week before the deadline for me to file that motion. And I did. I filed it, but they didn't get back to me for like maybe 4 years later.
So they gave you 10 years in prison over a couple documents that were forged. What did they say was the loss to the banks?
I don't know if it was different than it is. $13 million?
They said it was $13 million that you illegally signed for.
Yeah. all the time. So yeah, no. And if I had 13 million, I don't think yeah.
You wouldn't have paid it if you had the money?
I mean, let's back away from that.
Okay, so they give you 10 years in federal prison.
Mm-hmm.
Where do they send you first?
I was in a jailhouse in Escambia County.
What is that, like
Florida.
a county? Oh, you went
Pensacola,
to
Florida.
Oh, you went to the Pensacola camp?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I heard that's like a really nice camp.
Actually, not a Pensacola camp. It was the jail.
Okay.
Yeah, it was Pensacola jail.
Why Florida?
I had business in Florida.
You have business everywhere.
Yeah.
So what did you say to the feds? Hey, yeah, I think I'm going to do my time here.
No, that's where my son's case was out of Florida.
Okay.
And so when I flew into Florida to, go onto the witness stand for him, that's when they arrested me.
At his trial or witness stand?
At his trial.
Because then they figured out that you were the real mastermind?
They didn't figure anything. I told them.
Oh, okay.
I said, these are these charges belong, I'm responsible for these charges. And then I told him, it's in the transcript. My son didn't do anything. He had nothing to do with any of this, so.
So you go to Pensacola first for prison?
Yeah.
Or the jail?
Escambia County Jail.
What was that like, your first time ever in prison?
That was devastating.
What was like the strangest or weirdest thing that you experienced that you never would expect to have experienced as someone that was going to jail for their first time?
All of it.
What shocked you the most, like your first day in prison?
Well, you know what shocked me? I had on a suit. This was the second day I went to court, and I had on a suit and I had on my heels, and what shocked me is that they put handcuffs on me. That was the first shock. I'm like, oh my God, what is going on? Look at you guys to me, right? So it was the handcuffs, and then they put this chain around my waist. Why did they put a chain around my waist? Because they shackled me. My feet were shackled. This is like crazy. It was crazy.
Were you like yelling at them with your personality or anything like that? Were you saying anything to them?
No. Using my personality.
Yeah. What
the hell's wrong, you people? No. I was honestly, I was defeated. I just wanted to, we were at my son's trial, so I needed to understand what was going on, like what was going on with him. And so, I'm one of those mommies, right? Like, never mind, I'm all right. What's going on with my son? That's it. I just needed to know what was going on with him. And nobody was able to tell me anything.
That's the worst.
Yeah, it was the worst because I didn't know if he was found guilty, if they would release him, so I didn't know anything. So I didn't have a lot of words for anything at that point.
How long did you spend time in Florida for during your prison stay?
I think I was there 10 months.
And then you eventually make it to Danbury.
No, I traveled.
They put you through diesel therapy?
I traveled. I went to California.
Okay, a camp, a women's camp?
Yeah, Victorville.
They have a USP there too, right?
Yeah, right in Victorville, they have a USP. I think they have an FCI 1 and 2, and then they have the camp. So I was at the camp in Victorville.
So tell me about women's prison camp. Are there like politics? Are there like rules that the women make? What's that like?
Let me tell you about jail. Okay, let me tell you about jail, where I was housed with people that committed what we would call heinous acts of violence, like murder, and not just murder, not just shoot somebody with a gun. I don't know why I feel like that's just different, but I think one of the people in there actually set someone on fire. And you know what the craziest thing is? You meet these people, these people that we call these people, right? And you realize that they're just people. They're just people. You know, what possessed them to do something like that? I have no idea. But you don't even see that when you're dealing with them. They're just people. And so it's just just being incarcerated is such an interesting, it's just an interesting mindset that happens in there. Now, before prison, laying next to someone that murdered somebody would have been like, what? No, you can't even. And it's like, and then here we are on the other side of things, and it's like, oh, so they committed murder. Okay, so did they do their time, or do they have more? It's just a conversation. It's just a conversation. I think at some point, reality kind of sets in, and especially after you're there for a while, you see that things happen in people's lives that they can either explain or not explain. There are acts of passion that happen, and they commit like these crimes, but people at the end of the day are just people.
So these women that we see on like TV that do some crazy, crazy things that we see in trial, and they look all crazy on the television and stuff.
Yeah.
Are you saying those are normal individuals, like when you talk to people like that?
What's normal?
Well, I mean, like, could you have a conversation
No.
with an individual like that? Because you're saying you've seen people with heinous crimes. Like, are they people that you can approach and talk to? Or does TV villainize them? Not saying that they're not a villain, but can they be talked to as human beings?
Yeah, they really can. Yeah, they can be. Mm-hmm.
That's interesting. I'm sure a lot of people are curious about that because you see some of these women with the crazy hair, and they look like, or they did just kill someone, and you kind of want to wonder the mindset and how these individuals are.
You do. Now, can you approach them and talk to them? Yeah. How many conversations can you have with someone is another story. You know, and it depends on the depth of conversation that you want to have. You know, so. Yeah, interesting. People are interesting. I've learned a lot about people being away. I've learned definitely to be slower to judge. Because you never know. Outside of someone that's dealing with a mental condition that, you know, they were born with, let's just say, you never know if that person, if something happened in their lives that turned them around. And they became that way. It's a difference. And if that's the case, which it is largely, then it could have been you. It could have been me. I didn't have to be returned sane. There's a lot of people that went in there sane, came back, and just can't pull it together, you know? So you got to think that there's a power higher than us that are governing steps, you know, without going into any particular space.
What was your nickname in prison? Did the inmates call you anything?
My nickname is Cookie.
How do you get the nickname Cookie?
But I didn't let anybody in prison call me Cookie.
Why'd they call you Cookie?
I was 3 months old, and I think my cousin started calling me Cookie, which was really crazy. She said I looked like the wise potato chip man.
You know what's funny? You're sitting here in blue, so the Cookie Monster from Sesame Street. He was blue, right?
He was blue.
Yeah, the Cookie Monster.
Yes. Was it Oscar the Grouch?
Right?
Right?
Oh, no, Oscar the Grouch was the cookie guy, right?
No, he wasn't the Cookie.
He was the garbage one. Yeah, I think it was just called Cookie, right?
No, I think it was Oscar.
Are you sure? I don't know.
Yeah, Oscar's the one that wore the blue.
Oh, what about the garbage guy?
Yeah, I don't know about him.
That's just the Grouch, right? I don't know, but you were the blue, the Cookie Monster.
Yeah, so I was called Cookie since I was 3 months old. And, you know, here's the funny thing, that even closing $1 million deals, the bankers, they're Cookie.
When you got to prison, did you have any regret for what you did and the actions that led you there?
Yeah. You know, regret, we can speak about regret on a bunch of different levels. So the regret is that I didn't want to be in prison. I didn't want my sons to go through this. I didn't want especially the oldest one to have to even see the inside of a prison. and to have been responsible for that was crazy as a parent. As a parent, I'm talking about I wasn't the parent that dropped the kids off and kept it pushing. I was that parent every single day as a single mother, So to that degree, yeah. Now, the question, if the question were, would you have done it again? My answer would have to be, I don't know. I don't know.
What about now? Now that you've
Hell
survived
no.
prison? No, not doing it again, but has that feeling of regret changed? Because normally when we're in a difficult situation, we tend to regret it in that moment because we're living in that difficult situation. Mm-hmm. Now you're past that difficult situation. Are your feelings differently to your past actions that got you that difficult situation to begin with?
I'm so past the situation at this point in life. Like, it doesn't hold any weight on, do I regret it? Do I not regret it? Life throws you a lot of different bricks, and you either dodge them, or you get hit by them. But bricks will continue to happen. They'll always be thrown. It's life. You're going to have to make decisions. I'll get in a position where I'll have to make some decisions. But hindsight is 20/20, right?
Yeah.
So
we're in Richfield, Connecticut right now. It's on the border of Danbury, Connecticut. Why is Danbury, Connecticut significant to you?
Well, this is where I walked into freedom from FPC Danbury.
After you got out?
Mm-hmm.
After how many years did you end up serving in Danbury?
I was in Danbury for a year and maybe 8 months or something like that. I traveled. I was in Victorville for like 2 years. And then I wanted to come to Danbury to be closer to family, but I think there was I don't know, they had like a freeze on the prison. I think it was Judice.
You were there when Teresa was
there?
No,
I was about to be there, but they stopped me, and I ended up in West Virginia.
Did they know you were an attacker or something? They had to keep Cookie away from Teresa?
No, I'm not an attacker. But so they stopped me in West Virginia, and that's where Martha Stewart was, and that's where I was in West Virginia for like 3 years.
You weren't with Martha though, right?
No. She had gone.
So Danbury is a pretty famous prison.
Yeah. It's amazing that for something to be that famous to be that nasty.
So what do you mean nasty? What were some of like the? Oh my God. I was at the men's low, but what was like the camp like for you there?
I have never experienced anything so nasty in my entire life. Sleepaway camp is not even as nasty as that place. It's like, there's just mold everywhere. It's tight. It's just, it's terrible.
How are the guards treating inmates?
Guards, they have their favorites. If you like to chit-chat with the guards, you're good. If you don't like to chit-chat with the guards, but you give them that resting bitch face, you're good.
Now, I've had a couple women on the show that were at the Danbury prison, and they say that guards do sleep with inmates. Did you see that happen at all?
No, I've never seen that.
You've never seen that? Mm-mm. What about contraband, anything like that?
Contraband's everywhere.
They have cell phones in the women's camp?
I never saw one.
So you were goody two-shoes,
I know, right? But listen, I was a good girl in life.
But until you decide to start, forging documents.
That part, I'm telling you, it's crazy. But yeah, no, there was contraband. I had my contraband. I mean, I used to always, my clothes were always tailored. And,
see, so you were too goody two-shoes.
That part.
What about food? What was like your favorite meal in prison?
Oh my God, no.
Okay, what about commissary food? You did 10 years in prison. You can't say you didn't have a favorite dish.
I mean, I love chicken day.
Yeah, can you describe, we haven't talked about this, describe to the audience what chicken day is.
Chicken
why that's
day.
so popular in prison.
And here's the thing. I loved, leg and thigh used to be my thing, right? And in prison, that's all you got on chicken day was a leg and thigh. And I was like, okay, this is happy. This is good. And but yeah, every Thursday that was the meatiest, heftiest meal that we got all week long. So, they had their, for the eaters, for the real eaters, there was mashed potatoes, and then you had the string beans, and then you had the yams and the chicken. It was just like almost Thanksgiving on Thursday.
And they had great holiday meals in prison too. The holiday meals and the chicken days were the best meals you'd ever get.
Yeah, they were.
Now, the men at the men's prisons, on chicken day, we would take it, put it in a Keefy coffee bag, smuggle it out, and dish it up. Were the women doing that too?
Absolutely.
What were they, like, what kind of dishes were they making with that chicken?
Just like, like stewed chicken. We would make our own gravy, and then we'd make some cheesecakes. You know what? I used to have a sweet shop.
Wait, you ran a sweet shop in prison? All right, you got to tell us, give us the play-by-play.
Come on, once a hustler, you're always going to be
how did you hustle?
Entrepreneur, right?
That's awesome.
I had used to tailor clothes, so my clothes were always tailored. I used to, tailor clothes as well. But the sweet shop was great because whoever was in there that were doing things that weren't what they were supposed to be doing, they had a sweet tooth, right? They needed their sweet tooth satisfied. And the sugar that was on commissary, even if it was just cookies or something, it just wasn't sweet enough. And so I would make strawberry shortcakes, and it was so delicious. Oh, my God. Because I would make the whipped cream, and then I made banana pudding. I made the banana pudding taste exactly the way I made it at home.
How do you make banana pudding in prison?
So we take our pudding, the vanilla pudding, and I melted caramels in it, and then I put in a little bit of milk, and stirred it, and made the pudding, and then we bought the vanilla wafers. I crumbled them up, and then on fruit day, I think we had bananas once a week, so I would try to hoard as many bananas as I possibly could. I actually paid for some bananas sometimes, and so then I would make my banana pudding that way.
How much are you selling a banana pudding for in prison?
Oh, well, I had sizes.
Okay, well, what kind of cups were you putting them in too?
I had, I think, if I recall, I had the vanilla pudding cup size, the snack thing, and then I had there was another cup that was a decent size. However you slice it, one of the cups was $2.50, and the other cup was $3.50. These girls would come by and just grab like two or three. I mean, of the $3.50 ones, and then the $2.50 ones would be the ones that I'd have left over, and sold out.
And what were they using to pay you, like soups or mackerel? What was
commissary?
So. Was probably the craziest one I've seen, but the pudding one's cool.
Yeah, the banana pudding, that was good stuff.
Can you still make it if we asked you to?
Yeah.
You could whip that puppy up?
God knows I don't want to.
You'd probably be sick, yeah. We were doing like this cooking competition earlier in the year, a prison cooking competition, and I ate some of the food, and it was just like, it made me so sick after.
Yeah, no.
It's just crazy.
You remember how you would make the
taffy and the taffy and all that. What year did you end up getting out of prison?
2020. Well, really 21. We come from federal prison, we go into a halfway house. And so at this point, the halfway house, it was during COVID, so I went straight to family. And when I wanted to transfer to Queens, I had to go through the system, and then they ended up keeping me in a halfway house, which was crazy. So you got me, I'm home, I'm with my family, and then just because I want to move to Queens where there was my own space available, they held me at the halfway house in Brooklyn. So I was in an actual halfway house for like 3 months. So I didn't really start rebuilding my life until 21.
What were some of the challenges you faced getting out as now with a felony on your record? You might not even have had any. But.
I don't want to make it seem like there are no challenges, because more of us face challenges than those of us that don't. I'm a businesswoman. I'm an entrepreneur, so it's not like I was looking for the job of my life. You know what I mean? So I didn't have to deal with that kind of thing. Any job was fine because I knew I was only going to work it for a period of time. So nonprofit organizations, they offer jobs to those of us that were formerly incarcerated, and they actually and some of them pay well. But I know my first job was, I think, I don't know how much I made, $20 an hour or something like that. And then maybe 2 months later, I got a job was $23 an hour. No, my first job was $23 an hour.
That's great coming out of prison.
It really is.
Mine was 15 coming out.
That was good coming out of prison. It was $23 an hour, and I liked it too. I liked it. But then COVID happened, and places were shutting down or get poked in order to stay here, and I'm like, that part. And so, but yeah, and then so I was home. It was unemployment kicked in, and when it ran out, I got another job because I'm focused at this point. Now I'm building my business. I'm building my brand, and so the job didn't happen for me. That's not what I was looking for.
I think that there's different challenges for every individual coming out of prison. Like for me, I didn't have problems finding housing. To involve the credits entirely separate. Mm-hmm. When I apply for an American Express card, they're not running my background to see. And honestly, my criminal record doesn't even pop up on a lot of job applications because employers are looking for federal sex offender crimes or dangerous crimes. Yeah. So when I applied to like Whole Foods, they ran my state charges, which I had like a misdemeanor, but the federal stuff didn't pop up. I still reported it because at that time they said, have you been convicted of felonies or whatever, but it doesn't pop up. But I think each individual has different challenges.
Yeah.
So where some people struggle, like I know like with me, like on a social level, I struggled with that. But I didn't struggle in finding work because of my work ethic and then building a business because of my entrepreneurial sense. Yeah. But I get messages from guys that they can't find work because of their conviction. Yeah. So it really is different for everyone. What the challenges are.
It is different. And you're right. I did the same thing. I came home. I knew, I knew I was going to build business. I had, but then I got into my organization, which I love.
Yeah. What do you do now?
And so I have a women's organization. We empower trauma-impacted women with tools and support to help them regain their sense of self-worth, the women and their families. To help them regain their sense of self-worth after a trauma. And so we focus largely on those that have re-entered returning citizens. And I use my podcast to actually bridge the gap between society and our returning citizens. And so business-wise, I have a life and entrepreneurship coaching firm where I house my entrepreneurial mindset programs and workshops. And I was just able to hire two facilitators for some workshops that we're doing right now. And one of them is formerly incarcerated.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
And you got onto a BET show.
Yeah.
What was that about, for those that haven't seen it?
American Gangster Trap Queens.
So why are you considered a trap queen?
Season 3, episode Don't get me to explaining
when
this.
You're a boss bitch. That's what that reference is, right?
It's, at the end of the day, it's something funds illegal gain.
So did you like how you were portrayed in that film?
I have to say, yeah.
And how did they portray you?
It was.
Were you the victim or were you?
No. They didn't. I don't do victim.
Okay.
Yeah, no. That's why I like it. I wasn't the victim. They didn't portray me as a victim. They really laid it out the way it, for the most part, the way it was.
And where can people watch that if they want to see it?
Yeah, it's actually streaming live now. It's on BET. And, just plug in BET.com.
do you have a restitution now, too?
I do.
And that was for that full 18 million, or what is it, 16 million, something like that? Mm-hmm. $16 million.
Not 16. Well, I mean, it might as well be 16 million. It's 13 million.
And you pay that monthly?
Yeah.
So you'll probably never pay that back in this lifetime? You hope you can. Okay. Well,
I didn't say I'll never make it.
Yeah.
I didn't say I would never make it again.
No. Not never make it. It's different. Yeah, it's different.
Yeah.
Wow, 13, that's a lot of money.
Well,
how do you feel about that?
About what?
Does it affect you?
About what?
Does it affect you? No, does it affect your mental health at all? Or do you not even look at it as you actually owing it? Because it's not like a loan or whatever, but it doesn't show up on your credit report.
No.
It doesn't affect you from buying a car. It doesn't.
Mm-mm.
So do you even think about it?
No, I just make the monthly payment.
And that's it?
Yeah.
So do you have to deal with the financial litigation unit and all that?
No.
So they just tell you how much to pay?
They told me.
And that's it. And you just pay that monthly and they don't bother you?
It's so crazy. When I came out of the halfway house and I was released from BOP custody, that's when you go to probation.
Yeah.
So federal, it's different. And I was on, what is it? High security. That's where we all exit from, I think. I'm not sure. But in 30 days, they put me in low intensity security.
And you just had to report digitally or whatever?
Online. Piece of paper on.
They don't bother you now. Mm-mm. Are you still on probation?
Yeah.
Oh, you are still on probation now. Interesting. How much more probation do you have?
March.
Oh, you're right there.
I know.
Were you able to apply to get off early at all or no?
I didn't.
Okay.
I didn't. It's more work. Nobody can throw anything back at me. I'm done. When I'm done with them, I'm done.
Yeah.
I'm done. It's I don't owe you nothing. I paid my debt to society. I paid my debt. And, if I was on some sort of, this is the way I looked at the probation thing. I'm a free spirit and I like to move around as I choose. But I just took it to mean maybe timing is everything. Maybe timing really is everything. So, but I'm looking forward to March.
It's right around the corner.
Yeah, but I was placid, and I came home toting my business plans and what I was going to do because I have to build a business, right?
Yeah.
And I was stopped in my tracks. I didn't even approach any of it because this organization, the women's organization, just was laid on my heart, and I had to go for it.
You found your purpose.
I found it, and I live it every day, and there's nothing more fulfilling than that. I am good.
Do you feel like it should either be prison and restitution or one or the other? If you go to prison, do you feel like you shouldn't have to pay restitution?
I feel like if they send a paper to your house that says you in capital letters versus the United States of America, I think that's enough.
That's it. That's enough to scare someone.
It was definitely enough for me. That's enough. But no, of course I don't feel like there should be any restitution. It's done. These people will hold on. They hold on to you for dear life, And if you let that become a weight, then it becomes a weight. But paying restitution is a real thing. I have my choice ways of looking at things. I know that I had cars. I had a huge mortgage. I had properties. I had bills. So this is just a bill, even though I don't have those kinds of bills anymore or today. But still, it's a bill, and you have to pay your bills. And so that's just how I look at it.
What's your message to the people listening to this? Out of everything you've been through, the experiences, the life experience you have now, what do you want someone to take away from this interview?
Be patient. Be patient. It's diligent. I want to say a cliche that I always, I try to stay away from cliches, but what's for you is for you. What's for you is for you. You're going to get what is for you.
I love that. Well, Lonett, thank you so much for coming on the show today. We wish you a safe trip back. Best of luck with the organization, and hit me up whenever you need help with the podcast or anything like that.
I'm going to come to you.
See, we got it on record now.
Exactly. Yeah, you guys are going to see Ian on my podcast, The Sisteration Room.
Awesome.